Okay, this is Orlando Wilson, and what I want to talk about in this video is personal behavior. And in the close protection business, investigations business, you always want to be aware of people watching you how you behave, etc. It's a very small world. The close protection investigation world, the serious world, is a very small world. Everybody tends to know everybody else. They can find out about people pretty quickly. And if you get the reputation for not being able to behave, you're going to lose a lot of contracts, business, etc. This also applies to all aspects of business. Behavior is something which is extremely important, especially if you're traveling and doing stuff in other places, because understand, if people want to do business with you, they'll be watching how you behave. Now, let me tell you a story. We got tasked many years ago now. That's why I can talk about the case. Somebody I know, and most of my jobs come through recommendation, word of mouth, approached me and said, look, I know a company that I'm working for, they've got a problem. And what the problem was is a major clash of interests, intellectual property issues, etc. And this is where they had somebody working for them, very qualified gentleman, that had been fired due to his behavior. And they believed that even though he was given a golden, I don't know, you call it these days, a golden retainer, etc. It wasn't a golden handshake or something. He was being paid $600,000 a year just to stay away from the areas that he was working in. Why? Because of a big clash of interests. Now, what this gentleman had done, he was ex-military, senior member of a NATO country's military, in the communication sector, etc. And when things first started in Afghanistan, there was a need for communication specialists. He got out of the military. He started working for a private company, and he made, due to his contacts, due to his knowledge, he made that company a lot of money. He made himself a lot of money. He went from being a senior NCO in the NATO military to making millions. So this company was based out of Dubai, and because now you've got a middle-aged guy that's used to being ordered around, all of a sudden now he's the boss, making big money. Well, he's not the boss, he's a well-respected member of an organization, making too much money, a lot of money. Things went to his head, and his behavior went a little bit askew, shall we say. He started dating, even though he was married in his home country. He started dating a lady that was a lot younger than his in Dubai, which, again, back in those days, back in that time, that was questionable behavior. I think in the last few years, they brought in where unmarried couples can be in the same hotel room. Back then, they couldn't. So what he was doing was, in fact, illegal. Same room, same house, etc., etc. But he started dating this young lady that was a lot younger than himself. And if you know anybody that knows the UAE, yeah, there's a lot of young ladies there looking for older gentlemen with money. We'll leave it there. Anyway, not only was he dating this woman, and I don't think people cared if it was just mutual fun, but he started taking this young lady to business events, etc. She was his sidekick. And of course, people started asking, who's this woman? We thought this guy's married. And in a lot of places, again, in a lot of businesses, people want to make sure that they're dealing with respectable, stable people. On the surface, at least, because a lot of business is all about what's in the front, not what's going on behind. But he didn't know how to behave. So he ended up, after a while of this going on, being spoken to and told, don't bring her to the events, don't do this, don't do that, you need to keep a good front image. He ignored everything. So in the end, because one of the things with this company was also security clearances. So this company was afraid that if this gentleman was known to be, how can we put it, dealing with the ladies of the night, then that could bring into question his security clearance, the security clearance and behavior of other members of this company. And at the time, they were dealing with some sensitive contracts. So this gentleman was called in and told, you know what, you're fired. well, you're not fired. We're going to give you $600,000 just to stay away from any contracts in Afghanistan. You know what? He couldn't do that because he didn't want to go back to being a normal person living in where he's living with his wife and his kids and everything else, even though he's on 600 grand a year for doing nothing, and he could do other business, just stay away from Afghanistan. He started to work for another company, this company's competitors in Afghanistan, which was a clash of interest and against his agreement for leaving, his agreement for his $600,000 a year. So we were called in, and over a matter of months, and it took us months, we set up companies in other places, etc. So to see that we were a facilities management company that was going to contract his company, well, the new company he was consulting for, to help us with communications on forward operation bases in Afghanistan. And we were fed by his old company technical questions that only he could answer. And you know what? It took us a few months, but after a few months, we managed to get him to surface, and we're talking to him directly about how we could do things in Afghanistan and how his new company could help us. You know what? All the evidence was put in front of his old company just as he was about to receive one of his yearly $150,000 payments for a year. So he lost that and he voided his agreement with that company. So we saved that company a lot of money. But this gentleman's behavior potentially could have cost that company millions, and could have cost that company a lot, could have lost them contracts, and also screwed up their reputation big time just due to his behavior. Where again, a middle-aged man all of a sudden is in a position of responsibility. He's a little bit of a rock star. He's got cash in his pocket. So he's living out his, doing what he couldn't do for the majority of his life because he wasn't in the position financially or socially to do it. So this is where, just from that story, you got to understand that your behavior, doesn't matter if you're providing close protection services or in the business world, you're always being watched. And your behavior can not only screw you up, can also screw up the people you're working with. It can cost you work, it can cost you jobs, it can cost the companies you're with contracts, etc. And you know what? In business, your reputation's everything. And the other thing to remember is a lot of people in business know people like me, that if they have a problem, will be calling people like me up to say, you know what, we got a problem. How can you help us rectify this and save us some money? And you know what, shut this person down for good. As I mean that legally, I don't mean anything criminal. Everything we do is 100% legal, and we ensure that because our clients can't afford anything illegal. Reputation, right? Anyway, in the meantime, follow me along on social media. We're up on the main platforms. We've got an array of videos up that talk about topics like this. I've got too many stories up. Social media wise these days, I prefer LinkedIn. But we're up on the main platforms. We have an array of videos up. I have an array of books up on Amazon that talk about various aspects of the close protection business, investigation business, kidnapping, ransom, crime fiction, etc. And we have an array of articles up on my website that, again, talk about various topics to do with security investigations, personal security, etc. So if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And again, if you're having issues with a former employee that's or an employee that's causing you problems and doing things that could possibly jeopardize your reputation, jeopardize your company, jeopardize contracts, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to have a chat before we start talking money. In the meantime, be good, stay safe, and stay out of trouble.